Welcome to Our Life. Today we are going to be pulling and peeling back the mask off of two topics that we rarely discuss: sex trafficking and workplace harassment. So let me give you a quick removing the mask fact. Were you aware of the three top states with the most trafficking cases are California, Texas, and Florida? And also, were you aware in the workplace the most commonly reported cases are sexual harassment? So when we return, I will have some phenomenal guests sitting down with me, and we will start to peel back the mask on sex trafficking and workplace harassment. So we'll be right back.
Do you have less than perfect credit? Are you getting denied for loans and credit cards? Well, contact us today for your free consultation and learn the secrets of financial freedom. We can help with late payments, collections, judgments, bankruptcies, will, trust, and more. We get results. Let us help you. For more information, contact Nikki Ferguson at 281-788-9462.
All right, guys, we are back now to start peeling off the mask on sex trafficking. So I have my first phenomenal guest with me, Miss Jacquelyn Aluotto.
Yes.
And let me give you a little background of her. She just passed in, was it 2020? Anti-trafficking bill passed in 2021. Human rights activist. You're a producer. You're an anti-trafficking specialist. You have many titles.
I have a few, yes. God has blessed me with a gift to merge innovation and impact and media with advocacy and activism. And so I started that journey 21 years ago, and it's just been evolving. The bill that we passed was in 2021. It's SB 1831. It's the no trafficking zones, and what that is we wanted to make it a felony when you were trafficking and trying to groom and lure kids out of schools. There was a study done by the Attorney General's office that 55% of children in the state of Texas that are being groomed and trafficked come from school campuses or during school hours, and so we wanted to really try to combat that issue.
So I have a part two to that one, so I'm going to go back to that one. First of all, thank you for coming today, because you have a very busy schedule.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Secondly, what got you started with this?
21 years ago, I made a documentary called Not in My Backyard. I was very young, and it was about domestic violence. And I wanted to show how women and children were seeking refuge in a country that was refusing to recognize this epidemic in our backyards. What ended up happening is I ended up filming for 7 years, going across the states and cities into organizations that I felt were perpetuating the cycle and breaking the cycle. And in each of those cities, we kept on running across children that they were labeling child prostitutes. And children cannot be prostitutes. Even if children think that they're willing participants, they're victimized, and most of the time they don't even identify as victims. And so I went back to my mentor 21 years ago and I said, Sandra, there's so many kids in all these different cities and these shelters being sold for sex. have you heard about this? And she said, oh yeah, that's human trafficking. And I started researching it, and then from that moment on, it was like I felt like my purpose from God to really combat, prevent, and eradicate sex trafficking.
And it needs to happen. Let me go back to the no trafficking zone bill. My part two to that, do you think this is really going to be a great help? And is there anything that you feel that needs to be added to that bill?
So I do think the bill will help. I think that when traffickers and predators just get a slap on the wrist or deferred adjudication, it's just, you can just keep on.
They give them that?
Yes. So you can continue to re-victimize victims because human trafficking is so lucrative. We know it's a $150 billion annual business. It's an illicit business, but it is still a business. And so if the crimes don't match the penalties,
exactly,
then predators and criminals are going to keep on doing the crimes. If the crimes do react to the penalties and it becomes expensive, if you get caught to do this crime, it will deter criminals. And so I do think the bill will work if judges enforce the laws and schools are educated on exactly how the bills work, and parents, so that we all know our rights.
How do you think we need to educate parents as well as the community on sex trafficking? Because it's been around
Oh yeah.
for years. Now it's more in the news. But to me, it's not in the news still enough.
Right.
It's still kind of like, it's okay, we know it's there, but we're going to do just this. And how do we need to educate? Because the communities and parents, we see stuff.
Sure, of course. So with No Trafficking Zone, No Trafficking Zone is an organization that I'm the president of. One of the things that is important for us is we have NTZ Faith. We have 101 churches and spiritual leaders under us. Why that was so important is a lot of times in these movements, the leaders of those movements are only white faces, and we're going into your communities and your schools and telling you how your communities are being victimized and exploited. And that was something that really bothered our organization. So with NTZ Faith, we walk alongside the leaders in each community, whether they're Black and brown communities, whether they're indigenous communities, whether they're Muslim communities. We assess how their communities are being exploited, and then we let their leaders lead the movement, and we walk behind them and help them. That has been something that has been really important to us and has helped us, because that's also helped us with the schools. Because when you're working in communities, people trust you because they see you there day in and day out doing the work. And that is really important for our message. Is we're not going to say that we're about it. We are about it. We are about combating, preventing, and eradicating trafficking. But we also understand that every community and culture, trafficking and exploitation can look and sound differently, and we need to respect those communities and cultures and provide them with the proper tools to protect their communities. So I think that education and knowledge is going to be one of the most important things, because if I'm a parent, the word human trafficking just doesn't even resonate properly. It should just be called child sexual exploitation. And how it happens online so quickly, how it happens on the internet, how it happens at a party, at a school dance, at a pep rally, how it happens at a church youth group, how it happens in the foster care system, in the school system. And so human trafficking is so intricate because you can traffic people over 30 different ways. And so it's educating and equipping our parents in a knowledgeable, not clinical way on this is how it's happening. These are the apps that you need to use. Like, we love Bark because if your child's sitting right next to you and they're looking up child pornography, because we know that is rampant.
App alert you.
The app alerts you.
Oh, wow.
Because most parents don't think it. You're watching TV, your child's sitting next to you.
And most parents think their kids are like angels sent from the gods. And they are really not like that.
They aren't. And I think what parents need to know is algorithms. Like there is a science to predatory behavior. There is a lot of profit to predatory behavior. So Google, YouTube, all of these tech giants get paid by big companies that profit off of pornography. And so those algorithms target, like when children are looking up child videos. And you click it and it takes you somewhere. And by nature, you're a kid, you're curious. But an 8-year-old should not be watching pornography, because that really distorts
their mind.
Yes, on what sex should be, what it should look like, what it should feel like, and how you should be treated.
Exactly. Are you able to share a little bit of how you work with law enforcement to work with the ladies that you encounter, as well as everything else when it comes to sex trafficking?
Sure. So I am also the Community Awareness Coordinator for the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance of the Southern District, which was started by the Justice Department. I love HATRA because you have over 80 victim service providers, which is advocates, trained professionals, medical, and then on the other side you have your law enforcement and your federal agencies. And so it's imperative that we all work together, because we understand that while law enforcement has their job to do, which is to, apprehend criminals and protect our communities, they have that training for that. And advocates and victim services, we have the training to make sure that victims' rights are not being exploited, and that we provide them with as much help and care. And when I say care, I say trauma-informed care, but with that trauma-informed care, it needs to be trauma responsive. And that is very important in this day and age, because when you speak to victims, they're afraid to talk to law enforcement. And a lot of times law enforcement doesn't understand, because human trafficking is an intricate crime, that you cannot interrogate a victim. You interview them and you ask them questions. And so it's been an interesting dance. It's something that I'm really excited about, to see how evolved law enforcement has become, but to also see how involved and how firm advocates and human rights advocates are really sticking to it. With our no trafficking zone model in NRG Park, for the sports games with the Texans, we have human trafficking investigators walk with advocates, so that if we do see a scenario, our response team is fully equipped, not just to make sure that we put a criminal behind bars, but to make sure that victims are getting the services that they really need.
And the help they need, for sure. What more would you say would you like to see done in Houston regarding sex trafficking? Because Houston, and when I opened up the show, I gave them 3 states: California, Florida, and Texas, with sex trafficking. What more would you like to see done in Houston?
I'd like to see a more realistic approach. You had said before that human trafficking has been around for years, and so prostitution, sexual exploitation, the names that people normally know, it's really the oldest profession since the beginning of time. And so I want people to be able to have realistic conversations about it, not feel like they are shamed or guilty victims, survivor leaders. And I really want to address why human trafficking is so prolific in this nation and the world. And it's simply because if we do not dismantle greed and hold our government officials accountable for illicit crimes that are wreaking havoc through our communities and killing our youth, we are never going to combat any kind of crime. Because human trafficking is so profitable, when you understand that brings in more money than Nike, all these tech companies, oil, in order for a crime like that to exist at the way it is existing, means that many people have to be involved in it.
A lot of people.
Yes.
High-ranking people.
Correct.
are involved in that.
So people need to be educated on the difference between capitalism and corporatism. And corporatism is really when corporations are ruling the world and we value profit over people. And once I think that we show how that works, how officials are elected, how they stay in power, how the people that pay for those seats, that'll really explain it. And I'll give one example. Everybody knew what happened with Vanessa Guillen. She was this female military soldier who was cut up and dismembered. She had went to her family and said that she was being sexually assaulted by higher ranking officials, and then she disappeared. But when you start doing background research on Fort Hood, you find out, well, Fort Hood had a human trafficking ring 70 years ago where their sergeant was involved. And this has been happening, and this behavior and how they are profiling specific soldiers into that base was very alarming. But for me, what I focused on the most is John Carter is over District 31, and that is his district. So we need to hold him accountable and ask him, why are you allowing this to happen? Why is this rampant on and off of your base in these areas? And if you do not do something about it, we are going to hold you accountable and elect someone and put them in that position that will.
Exactly. A lot of people knew about her situation.
Yes.
Very much so. If they need housing or a safe place immediately, what options do they have?
Okay, so if you are a domestic minor sex trafficking victim or even a minor trafficking victim, you will go through a program that the state had created, and it's Triad. And they will connect you with a trained advocate, and that trained advocate will walk alongside the child and make sure to find like housing, therapy. If they don't want to go to housing, then what other resources are there available? If you are 18 to 21, your resources are a lot limited. It's sad that age gap, because they, especially in the foster care system, because they've now aged out.
Yeah.
But I just got back from San Antonio, and we were working with the Children's Assessment Center, the Child Safe Assessment Center there, and they have this great program for that demographic of 18 to 21. Of course, we need more beds. Over 1,100 beds just got cut this year for human trafficking victims. So where are we going to put these victims and youth? We know in a study that over 79,800 youth and children are trafficked on any given day in the state of Texas. So to not have enough beds, not even to have close to enough beds, is alarming. And then where do you put the adults? So what I'd like to see in Houston and throughout the state is realistic conversations and solutions, not political. No one with agendas.
Exactly.
Just to do God's work. Yes. To find more beds, but to find these stabilization assessment centers so that it's a one-stop shop for all these kids, so they don't have to be bounced around and go here to here, and their families. And that while they are, if they're detoxing, because a lot of times they're put on narcotics, they can just heal and start stabilizing while they're in a trauma-informed care facility, and really just holding our government accountable will really also, I think, help to prevent and combat trafficking.
Okay, so you'll be back with us. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I will have one of her phenomenal survivors that will be sitting down with me. And then I'll bring you guys back later on, and we'll give some more tips and some more stuff that people need to hear and know, and if they want to participate. And also, I have this awesome gift. So we'll tell you about that, how you can get the awesome gift. We'll tell you all about that when we come back. But we're going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with one of the survivors. So we'll be right back.
$100 on chicken nuggets.
$100 on chicken nuggets. Really?
How'd you get in my house?
I'm with Wisdom Tax.
Wisdom Tax, so you can help me with all of this.
Most definitely. Looks like you need help in bookkeeping.
So what about maximizing my refund?
We can only maximize your refund if you get organized. Here at Wisdom Tax and Financial, we teach you how to be free. 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 Free.
Free? Awesome. So I can be free of these receipts.
Most definitely. Please give us a call.
Thank you. Can you free yourself out of my house, please?
Only if you promise to give us a call.
I'll give you a call. So I can be free.
Wisdom Tax. Learn to be free.
We are back now, and I have a phenomenal lady sitting on the side of me, Miss Rich Love. She is a survivor. She's a musician, a radio personality, producer, a survivor advocate. You are a 10-year survivor recovery
Thank you, God.
a $200 a day meth and crack addiction. You're a speaker. You've been arrested multiple times. You've been in rehabs, institutionalized. 10 years clean and sober. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for Miss Jacquelyn for bringing you.
Yes.
Because you are, when I read this, I was like, what? Phenomenal. Phenomenal, and you are walking testimony.
Walking testimony that you do not have to look like what you've been through.
Walking testimony. So let me, let's get in, I want to bring you back to your childhood and when you were abducted and brought into this life.
So I think that my story is a little bit of a shock to a lot of people, because whenever people think of human trafficking, of course you see the movie Taken, or it's a lot of, Caucasian, blonde hair, blue-eyed children, or it's the foster care system, or people that aren't normally thought of as trafficking survivors or victims. Two-parent home, I had piano lessons, decent house. I think my parents were paycheck to paycheck, but I never would have known it.
Middle-class family.
Middle-class family. My dad grew up in Cabrini Green, which is one of the toughest projects in Chicago, Illinois. So he really raised us to speak a certain way, act a certain way, think a certain way. And for the way that my life transpired, that was completely a shock to everyone. I think the biggest factor for me was feeling very controlled. I felt like I had to live up to something that I thought I would never be. So I got to a point where I just gave up. So I started using drugs at about 12 years old. I got expelled from school and really went down a path that was not common around my area. And so a lot of times people assume that it's the white vans, it's the man in the bushes. No, I was groomed by a African-American woman that saw me out at a gas station and, offered me a place to stay. She saw my vulnerabilities. I was homeless, but I wasn't the kind of 16-year-old that looked voluptuous.
So let me ask you a question. You ran away, you left home at what, 16?
Yes.
Wow.
So I wasn't the kind of kid that looked older. She knew I was a child. And so I was brought in and under different pretenses, and I was trafficked. And I think one of the misconceptions with trafficking survivors is that it's cages, chains, you're locked up, you can't get out, you're beaten every day. That was not the case for me. My bondage was mental. I thought no one's ever gonna want me, my parents aren't gonna want me. And so I stayed in a life that was empty, that, there's so much shame. And they tell you, they would tell me, who's gonna want you now, you're trash. So a lot of people think once you get out of the life that it's over. No, it's a lifelong battle process to unlearn all those traumas that came at such a young age.
What was the one thing that helped you to make a change?
God. That's off top. I had a nervous breakdown in 2011, And I got to the point where, you know, I've been in a lot of therapy, and from my understanding, all of the trauma and fear that I should have felt getting into cars with people, being abducted, and all the things that I went through growing up, I suppressed that to survive. So in about 2011, my brain just broke. All of that pain, all of that ammunition inside just started to come on me. So I had panic attacks multiple times a day. I had agoraphobia where I was afraid to leave my house. I was claustrophobic. I was scared to ride in an elevator. I had a job on the 15th floor, and people couldn't understand, why does this girl keep taking the stairs? I was afraid to be stuck on an elevator. I didn't fly for years until I went on a trip with Jacquelyn to LA. I kept on trying to take trips to like New Orleans because it's like a 30-minute flight. Yeah, she's like, let's go to LA. I'm like,
that's a 3-hour trip.
Yes. But like literally, I couldn't even travel. Like I lived in like the A-Leaf area. Shout out to SWAT. And so I couldn't even go to like 610 and I-10 by Lakewood Church. I would be, at the time I was married, I'd be like, turn around, go back. And nobody knew that I was battling all these things. So I think it took that for me to change. And biggest thing I always tell people, the company that you keep. Like, I know people say that you are what you hang around, but there would be times that I would go around people that I used to smoke crack with, and I would think, oh, let me just go visit them. And then I'd be on a weekend bender, hundreds of dollars later, and I'm back in that life. So sometimes you just got to cut people off and keep it moving.
The young ladies on the street that are still on the street, are they willing to talk to you and take advice from you?
It depends. That's interesting that you asked that. I was out with a street team last week, and there were a lot of people that were homeless and going through their addiction. And there was one woman in particular. You know, I think that there's a certain connotation that, you know, you look at someone else that's gone through something maybe similar and you think, that's not gonna happen for me. Like, okay, yeah, you look like this, yeah, you on TV, you doing this, but you're not me. You don't know what I've done. You don't know where I've been. There's so much shame that there is a hesitation. There is a fear of opening up, especially the younger girls. It took me over 30 years to even realize that I was a human trafficking victim, survivor, overcomer. No one was saying that terminology in 2004. When I was in a residential treatment center, I would hear things like, you knew what you were getting into. Like, oh, that was just your pimp. Like, we weren't looked at as a victim. We were looked at as prostitutes, which is, you can't be that at 16, 15 years old. So, you know, it's a lifelong process, but there is some hesitation because, you know, there's the Romeo pimp situation. They don't want to get caught up. I know when I got locked up, I called my guy and told him what was going on, but some people don't want to, like, admit that someone, for me, it's very hard for me to have a victim mentality. Like, don't ever like, I am not a victim. Like, God brought me through this. There are things and traumas that happen, but that's something that I had to learn. Like, wow, that person really was abusing me. You know, I was a victim of something. So yeah, it's a process, but there is some hesitation normally.
So I know you'll be back later on, so we can talk some more with Jacquelyn and give some more tips and stuff like that. So you are a musician as well. So tell us about the single Blessing on the Way.
Yes.
Because you just released that or about to release that?
So that was actually released last year. So let me tell you the quick backstory. So we have a show called Real Beauty, Real Women, and there was a producer, Ravion, shout out to Great Rock. I did a parody of a song for kids, and he was like, you know, I know you're trying to be funny on YouTube, but he was like, you kind of got bars. So I went in the studio, and so I started making music, and I'm still not where I want to be. Like, you have to start somewhere. But Blessings on the Way is truly the story of God literally woke me up in 2011, October, and I was completely clean from crack, meth, ecstasy, cigarettes, alcohol, caffeine. Like, literally, I woke up and I was a totally different person. Only God can do that. And so the first lyrics in my song is, one day God woke me up, he told me got to go get it. Go get it. Pick up your bed and walk. Like, it don't matter what you're carrying. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter about that shame. And so the music video, I did with Hazen House Studios, that literally walks through the process of me being homeless, me doing my first speaking engagement where my mom embraced me, the first time she had heard a lot of things that I had been through. And so it just walks through that whole process of God's glory and grace. That came out last year. And it was, of course, slowed down because of the pandemic. But then recently I just dropped Precious and Priceless. And in that one, that is the first song that I recorded. I lost my mom last year suddenly. She wasn't sick. There was no preparation of, normally if someone has cancer or something, you can be ready for it. None of that. So this is the first song where I talk about it, because I was hearing earlier someone was saying how losing their mom, they couldn't speak, and how it changes you. I didn't know if you wanted to divulge that.
Okay.
But I was relating to what you said, and this is the first time that I'm publicly saying, like, when she died, I felt like I wanted to climb in there with her. And so whenever I was 16, I tried to commit suicide, and she went into like almost cardiac arrest. It was horrifying. And I told myself, I will never, ever try to commit suicide. I will live for my mom. So even though I wasn't trying to commit suicide directly, I was indirectly by all the lifestyle that I was living. And so when she passed, it's almost like I had to find my reason, because she wasn't here to be that reason. I don't have children. So why am I still here? So that's Precious and Priceless, talks about loss, believing in yourself. It's an anthem for other survivors or any overcomer, because everyone alive has survived something. You don't have to go through something super traumatic. I have friends that are, have a lot of money, or maybe they haven't gone through some things that I have. And they're like, oh, I hear your story. And like, I'm not going to say nothing. Everybody handles things different. My story, your story, it all matters. So Precious and Priceless was just released on my birthday, Monday. So make sure that you check that out on all streaming platforms.
We're going to get all that information a little later. But tell me one thing. How was it testifying because you've testified in 3 anti-trafficking bills at the Texas Capitol. How was that?
So that was amazing. My, of course, favorite bill. All of them are important, but the SB 1831 with no trafficking zone, that's really important to me because I was trafficked out of my high school. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize happens. There could be kids in the classroom that are grooming other children. And so to know that there wasn't such an outpouring of wanting awareness then. I did not hear the term human trafficking. I've been in therapy for over a decade off and on. No one ever correlated the things that were happening to me to human trafficking. I was just an uncontrollable kid on missing posters. And so to know that there are so many people that care, they want to help, they have good intentions. If that was in place when I was in school, I don't think my journey would have taken as long to where I'm over 30 and I'm just now realizing, 5 years ago that I was a trafficking survivor. So it's really phenomenal because there is a little bit of imposter syndrome because when you've done certain things that are nasty or gruesome or, there were times that I had a pistol on me, like the person that I was, dear Lord, thank you, Jesus, for changing me. But I think that I'm almost in disbelief that someone cares about what I have to say. People are like, oh, you're so inspiring. You do this, you do that. And I'm like, who even wants to hear what I have to say? So for me to go to the Capitol multiple times, meet with Governor Abbott, and just all of the love with other survivors and No Trafficking Zone and all of these organizations. And even whenever I was finished one of the times testifying, the woman stopped me, because it's very fast. You have like 3 minutes or something. And she was like, I want to commend you and thank you because there was a time when survivors wouldn't get up here. No. There's a time there's people watching you on this television that are survivors of domestic violence or whatever the trauma that would not get up here out of fear. And she would just thank me. And I was just like, wow, So to me, that was amazing because you can talk about it. You can want to make a change, but this bill is actually changing things.
I love it. I love it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, guys, and we will be right back.
Hi, this is Willie Adolph of the Adolph Group at Equity House Properties. I'm here today to talk to you about home purchasing. You know, so a lot of times people want to know, where do we start? When do we start? How much do we need to save? What does our credit score need to be like? Can I really move in now? And the answer is yes. The thing is that you want to get pre-approved first before you even go house shopping, because what you wouldn't want to happen is that you find the perfect home, but the bank won't qualify you for your mortgage. So always get pre-approved first. So find a good lender, which we have a lot of resources for you on that. Second, you want to make sure that anything that's on your credit, if it's something that you can work with, let's work with it, because everything on your credit, you know, it depends on what it is for each mortgage company. And third, once you get that pre-approval, now it's time to go house shopping. Now, Willie, what about the money, the down payment and things like that? Well, they have a lot of programs that's out there. So based on your credit will depend on the down payment assistance that you can receive. But we do have a lot of resources and a lot of things that can help you. And everyone with the Adolph Group will hold you by your hand and walk you through the whole process. So you can contact us at www.theadolphgroup.com or 281-451-7087. And remember, when you have will, you have a way.
The Adolph Group at Equity House Properties. We provide residential, commercial leasing apartment locating. We provide consulting on home buying, home selling, and credit restoration. We help with private investments through All Faith Investment Corporation. Contact us now, the Adolph Group at Equity House Properties. We make real estate your reality.
All right, guys, we are back. We will be bringing Miss Rich Love and Jacquelyn back together later on in the show. But now I have with me the Miss Phenomenal, Miss Paula Cobb is with me, and you are a government worker, bachelor in science. You're a filmmaker, and was it soulology?
Soulology.
Soulology. Okay. First of all, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to talk a little bit and start peeling off the mask on workplace harassment. My views on that is that's another thing that's hidden. When it comes to workplace harassment, and then you have how companies are ran, then you have the EEOC that's involved in stuff. It normally, to me, doesn't play out right for employees because everything goes on the side of that company and to protect that company. That's my opinion on that. But tell us a little bit about the sexual harassment and the assault. Give us a year that this started. Let's go from there.
Yeah, I'd never forget. It was 2014. 2014, and our agency changes over commands during every 2 years. So these commanders or these guys that are, be it Air Force or Army officers, come in for 2 years to run a whole bunch of civilian people.
And then before you continue on, let me say one thing. We're gonna leave. Certain things won't be said.
Correct.
Because you do have it's an ongoing case right now. So certain things won't be said, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So they're ran by these officers. So we happened to get a military officer in there. He was egos. They run by a lot of people that have egos. So now that I was married to somebody that had like certain egos, so the mentality of the people that are head to lead in the military are not even just safe for society. They could be predators just like anybody else. And that's how this commander was. He was running and ruling everything with an iron fist, where nobody could say anything against him or anything like that. So he started making these visits, because that's what they claim that they do, but really, visits the employees and getting that out. I guess to get a feel for the people that they're in charge of. But the visits start coming by my door in my office a little bit too often. And just making very uncomfortable comments, on, your blouse is fitting you really nicely across, or you look really nice, or are you single? Questions you're like, okay, this is not, something that you should be asking an employee. It's like, well, what really can I help you with?
So, I blew it off because, it's like the first time, and I was like, but, it goes back, because when you try to suppress trauma or try and take control of a situation after you've been or grew up and being victimized, a victim of I was child molested at a young age. So when you're trying to do this reshift and re-mindset at an older age, it's really different. So I didn't really say anything, but after a while he started popping up at my door before I can even get in my office in the mornings. Really just lurking at the door or wanting to stop in and hold, just conversations. But the conversation was like, okay, it's no need.
It wasn't work related.
No, ma'am, they were not work related. So it made me very, very, very uncomfortable.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I didn't really know what to do with it. So I started, just writing and journaling a little bit of things down, just for my protection, because I know how the offices ran. They ran because this is leadership. This is the guy that's over the office. So who do you report? The boss that's doing all these things too, and you're just a regular employee. So, it was, but it started back then, and it drug out. The case was drug out because of his rank and all these males.
How long did it go on before you decided, okay, this is not right? You had reached your tipping point.
It was like a month later, because by then I tried to report it to people outside of the agency. I reported to a friend that was a federal policeman, and he told me, well, maybe you might need to contact, your congressman, which was Miss Sheila Jackson Lee at the time, and then found out it's like, the other guest said, this stuff is so political.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a policy and procedure that you have to go to. You can't really just come to us for help. So really not just downplaying your situation. It's like, okay, someone touched me.
It's passing.
They put their hands on me, and this is not right, and I know it's not right.
Do you think employers as well as the EEOC need to start to revise some laws for the workplace?
They definitely do. They most definitely do, which meaning that they need to get parties that are outside of the agency, that has no affiliation with the agency.
To do independent investigations.
Investigations, yes, ma'am. Most definitely.
Where was your mental stability when this was happening? Because I know you said you had trauma from your past that you had healed, or at least thought you healed from that, and then this. Where was your mental stability at that time?
I broke. I suppressed it so much to where, when I mentioned it and brought it out to a supervisor, they naturally reported. So then that's when the retaliation started, and it was like going to school and being just bullied at every end. Just, you're in the wrong parking spot. So if you're in the wrong parking spot, you're in a violation of this and that. And then they were coming out with all these crazy policies and rules, just because I'm trying to discredit this guy. And they were like, oh, because she's such a liar and she's a troublemaker. So it was horrible.
Are you still working?
I am still there.
In that same?
I'm still there, but thank God for COVID. You can say what you want to say. You can say what you want to say about COVID. But I didn't have to be in the office any longer, dealing with these people, because it's hard. No longer if you were in a household where abuse had taken place, and then everybody in there just moving around in the norm, but you're this victim and you've already cried saying, hey, somebody help me, something is wrong, something's not right here, something's not right here.
But during that time, you also discovered it wasn't just you. It was another female in your office as well.
Eventually, yes. There were other females that were experiencing different type of bullying from supervisors, male supervisors. Then we had people that, that make your situation, downplay your situation because they cry wolf. They cry wolf, because we had one in the office, she made like 5 allegations of sexual harassment against different males in the office. But, you always have that one person that makes it bad for the real victims. Yeah. But yes.
So is it easier not being in the office now? Or are you still dealing with some retaliation despite that you're not in the office?
I am not really dealing with much retaliation right now, but I did I did make a breakthrough. Because I end up with PTSD after it.
Oh, wow.
And it was real. And I never told anybody that I did have a mental breakdown. A mental breakdown with everything that took place. And so I was off for the first time in my life, my whole work life, for like 3 months. Because I'm really, really resilient and I'm strong. I can really handle a lot of things. But with that coming at me and the time that I invested, and I know that I'm a fighter, but you just can't walk away from like 15 years that you've already have invested. You're a single parent, this is your livelihood. And excuse me.
We're going to get you some tissue.
Yeah.
We're going to get you some tissue.
And this is your livelihood. So you just, the decisions that you have to make, on, hey, whether to walk away or stay, it really just depends, when you are working in a government capacity, because you can get blackballed. That's possible. And I started experiencing that when I tried to apply for different jobs away from the office, so yeah, it was quite.
So you do have an outlet from that, that
I
you
do.
take yourself away. So you work on films. Tell us about the film. Is it The Case?
The Case.
Tell us about that.
While
we get you some tissue.
Okay. Well, the film, The Case came about after hearing that there were other people experiencing the same things that I was experiencing, just on different levels. One of my friends, she ended up having a stroke and almost dying, but I didn't really know what was going on because we work in different areas. And she called me, and that just triggered something in me to say, okay, I need to complete this film and try and get the word out there to help her, because the supervisor was trying to push her into retiring early. He was sending, they were so bold, he was sending her emails, and she sent me the email stating that she was a burden on the workforce.
That's what the email said?
Oh, I have copies of it, yes. And she's a burden on the workforce and a burden on her co-workers because she's mentally unable to complete things that she should already know. But you're talking to somebody that had a stroke behind already being bullied by other people in management, because this is what some of these guys do, and it's but they downplay it. They downplay it, and then she was a fellow soldier, so I didn't even really know the depths that excuse me, I didn't know just the depths that she had to deal with that caused her to have the stroke and be hospitalized. And but just the treatment was just the maltreatment and the disrespect afterwards just encouraged me to say, well, okay then, let me do this movie and do this film, because somebody out there could be going through the same thing, but then they don't really even know that they could have not survived. They could have died, because I watched her twice. She started even having mini strokes because she had to constantly meet with this guy, and he just constantly just would beat her down and beat her down and beat her down. So, the movie The Case was there just to help me, myself, other females, and then I found out another coworker, Hispanic coworker, friend of mine, that she had left all out of the blue, but she had even tried.
Same reason.
She had been harassed, sexually harassed, and went to leadership to try and report it. Her and another female employee, but they didn't do anything about it at all. So
wow.
Yeah.
What advice, before we close out your segment, what advice do you have for other females or a male that is going through this?
To not be silent, speak up, find outlets outside of those agencies. Someone, continue to keep a voice. Do not let them crush your voice or threaten you in any type of way, or have you to have to make life decisions that you should not have to make. Should I have to walk away from this job or what? Because we're going to be faced with things with mental health, and that was another thing. The mental health challenge, like we were saying, is so prevalent, because you have to fight for your peace. Just not to give up, speak out, fight, find others, support groups, or somebody to help encourage you to know that these people are wrong and they're not right, and you have a right to not be victimized and bullied when you come to work.
And don't let that title, because at the end of the day, it's a title. We all have titles in workplace. It's a title. That's all it is. You strip that person of that title, they're nothing. They're just the name that they got at birth. If you strip them of the title. So don't be scared of that title, because their title is so up here, you're scared to report them on what they're doing that they shouldn't be doing. So don't be scared of the title. I wanted to say thank you so much for being here. How can, if anybody wants to reach out to you and contact you, how can they do so?
They can reach me at...
Don't leave your phone number now. I'm guessing leave the phone.
Now you can reach me at Soulology Inc. LLC at gmail.com, and also Paula Cobb 21 at outlook.com.
What, tell us, before we leave, tell us, what is Soulology?
Soulology is, and it's in construction. It's my website, because now it's with, like I said, with everything that I've experienced and going on with the females and the things in the workplace, I came up with something just to teach and empower women to spirits and keep their spirits and their souls high. So Soulology does that. A lot of times, you know, the first thing that when we break with mentally and everything is the soul.
Yeah.
It's that start chipping away at the soul, you know? And that's how Soulology came about, and that's what Soulology, my site, will be about. Sharing and empowering women, because we need voices and to keep our spirits and our souls, because, you know, we as females are a backbone of a lot of things, you know, and we need to encourage each other, one another, regardless what race, color, whatever. If we see something, speak out, support, know something, you know, let people know that there's other people out there that share and care.
Most definitely. Again, thank you for being here with us today. Any information?
Welcome to River and Word. Our founder is Pam Jones, and she has so much to offer to independents. River and Word magazine helps promote, support, and connect you to radio, TV, and marketers to help you be successful in the arts. River and Word recently launched the River Word Gospel Radio Station. It's a place to gain more exposure for your music or talk shows. River Health offers all natural products that may help you lose weight, gain energy, reverse the signs of aging, improve eyesight, grow your hair, and almost 40 plus benefits. For more information, visit riverhealthnewulife.com. Pam Jones also has 4 River Consulting for independents, where she will guide, advise, and connect you to the resources to develop your brand. Pam Jones founded the River Awards to recognize and award the independent artists in music, dance, writing, and painting. She felt a call from God to give honor to his people. For more information, visit us at riverandword.com.
Wisdom tax. Maybe I should give him a call. Oh, how did you get in my house again?
Now, you know I told you I'm with Wisdom Tax.
Well, I'm glad you showed up, because I think I'm ready to get started.
Great. Look, I just need you to do one simple step. Visit our website online, www.wisdomtax.org. All right, fill out the application, and we'll get back to you, maybe even in the next 10 minutes.
Awesome. I'm about to be free. Look, this is amazing. You know, so what? Wait. Hello?
Call us at Wisdom Tax, where you learn to be free.
So I am back now to close out this segment. I want to thank again Ms. Paula for sitting down with us to take the mask off on workplace harassment. But now I'm back with Ms. Rich Love and Ms. Jacquelyn, and we're going to close out the show with a little bit more on sex trafficking. So I want to go back to you. I want to ask you guys, what are some tools you would give the ladies to keep themselves safe? Because I know we talked briefly about housing and stuff like that, Jacquelyn, and I know you mentioned you guys have street teams that go out on the streets in Houston. What are some tools they can use to keep themselves safe?
You want me to go first? So I think there are different tools for adults and children. I know for the youth and the youth in schools or churches, really anywhere where you're going to meet someone, and this can be applied for adults also, is we all have vulnerabilities, every single one of us. Most people and women, it's hard for us to identify as victims or being weak. So when we are giving people tools, we need to explain that we all have vulnerabilities, and that's where predators will look. And so we need to explain to them what the grooming process is, because the grooming process is a conversation. And whether your mom just died and so you're vulnerable about that, and I'm a predator and I know that, and I bond with you by saying, oh, my mom just died too, and then I find out what your weaknesses and vulnerabilities are, and then I start exploiting that. That's one way. Or if you're a child and your mom and dad just got divorced, that's another way. If you feel like you're being bullied at school. And so there's so many different ways, since we all are vulnerable, but really letting people know, like, this is predatory patterns and behaviors, and it comes off as a very caring and sophisticated person, but like there are red flags. And one of them is, you know, if a child thinks that they're gaming with another child or on social media, and then that other child says, you know, you're very mature for a 12-year-old. There are specific red flags, and if we can teach children and adults what all those red flags are, and communities and parents and schools and churches, then that will give people really tools to understand, I am being groomed. This is a slow manipulation process by a mastermind. And let me stop this process, or let me try to make sure that this person is really who they say they are, and then give them the resources on what they should do.
That was one, like a part two to that question. Also, parents, how can we teach parents on what they need to watch for when this process could be happening right under their nose?
So the process for grooming or luring looks a lot like a teenager. Isolation, your child starts isolating themselves, acting very differently, secretive, caught in lies, starts cutting off, like if they had friends or a sports activity, their behavior really changes drastically. That is a big sign of trafficking or sexual exploitation.
And I think from my situation, there were so many signs. You know, I was self-mutilating, I was going through bulimia, I was very depressed. A lot of my friends that I had, now when they hear my story, they're in so much disbelief because they knew something was going on, but they didn't understand when I was leaving school, when I'd be on runaway, you know, the times that I would be gone. And I think no longer are the days where parents are allowed to just, well, I don't want to infringe on them, I don't want to be in their business. No, because someone else will happily be in their business.
They don't have, if you are not 18 years old, you don't have business. Okay? If
Go
you're not
through the
18 or
phones.
21, you don't have no business. You don't.
Right, your child
Your
is
kid.
your business.
Exactly.
I'm a mother, and you know, my child's pretty young, but I tell her all the time when she says, well, other parents let their children do that, I said, well, I'm not other parents.
Exactly.
And I think that parents need to not be afraid to understand that you can't always be your child's friend. You have to be your child's parent, and they're going to get mad at you, but it's your job to protect them and love them. And you are a lot more aware of what's really happening.
Exactly.
And they're everywhere. They're in your phones, they're in their phones, they're on their games. Like whenever I see kids that are playing Fortnite or different games, or you could play with someone all over the world, you don't know who they are, they have apps to change their voice. Your child, especially very young, should not have on headphones where you can't hear what they're saying, because I have heard situations where they're saying very inappropriate stuff and the child doesn't realize. If a child doesn't have that that mindset yet. They don't know what they're looking for. So having those conversations, no longer the days where you say, well, I'm uncomfortable to talk about sex. Even some adults are uncomfortable to talk about sex. So to talk to their child, like I said, someone else will. So where do you want that to come from?
And get the wrong information from somebody else. Tell us about my lovely gift I got. Tell us about that.
Okay. So our other organization is Real Beauty, Real Women. It's also known as Break the Cycle USA. It's been around for almost 2 decades. And we really believe in social enterprise, economic empowerment, products for purpose. And it's great to see so many organizations doing it now, but we have really been doing it for the last 10 years. And so when we work with survivors and women in recovery, we want them to create their own magic. And so we had an advocate and a survivor design this, and it is to unlock their voices.
I love it.
And it's these are called cause cuffs, and our campaign is called Beauty Over Bondage. And this money goes back into their programs and a fund that we've created for them for survivor leaders. So we're really excited because we want to help spark their dreams and have their dreams come true. I wanted to just say something quickly about what we were just talking about with the internet. What people don't realize is there's over 6 billion people on the planet that are mostly on the internet. So you wouldn't just leave your home open where 6 billion people could walk in and have access to your children and youth. So you have to look at that with the internet also. So that's something that I just don't think that people realize.
No, they don't. I when the internet came out, I saw some people, I said the internet is the devil. And that's what I said. We have to use it because that's the world we're in now for the most part. But I think a lot of us we've totally relied on that now. We rely on that. We rely on social media to get our news from. We don't research anything no more. We don't go back to the library and pull out books and read. We don't do any of that no more because the internet is there and it continues to grow. So this is what we
another piece is, I believe, yes, that's true what you said about the internet, but it is what you make it. Because you could be scrolling. I hear so many people, there was a study that they did that talked about young ladies and depression and suicidal thoughts based upon all that scrolling. Adults do it too. And so it is what you make it, but the internet is a place where you could connect with so many people, but it is a double-edged sword. That's for sure.
It's definitely that. So can we get a little acapella going on in here? Just a couple little verses from a song, just a little something.
Life is what you make it, dear Lord. Don't come and take it. I told Satan step back. And no, I'm not going to sit here and fake it. I've been through a whole lot, but no, I'm not going to stop. Everybody knows in H-Town we drop, we don't stop. Drop top, bring it back. Survivor leader, overcomer. Now I need her because I'm this and I'm that. Bring it back. H-Town.
I love it.
I did not know you were going to do that.
I know that. You didn't know that, did you? That wasn't one of your questions.
No.
What would you tell before you guys tell us how people can find you, how if they want to participate with anything with the no trafficking zone, all of that information, what would you say to the young rich love? What would you tell the young rich love?
Wow, I would tell the young rich love, you are everything. You're never too far. Because a lot of times you may come up and things will happen to you and you'll feel like that's the end for you. But always know that God is walking beside you. Everything that's going to happen in your life is going to be your purpose. Everything that you are afraid to do, afraid to have your picture taken, afraid to travel, afraid to speak in front of people, keep on moving forward, rich love. Keep going because God is going to use that and change so many lives and do more than you ever imagined with your story. And I would say also that although I would speak to the young rich love, I still have to speak to the current rich love because the current rich love is still going through things that people may not know about. Everyone has things that they don't speak about. But although I love that young rich love, it's time for the current healed, wiser rich love to take the baton and do God's work.
Okay. So each of you tell us how people can get acclimated or participate or get these lovely bracelets, the No Trafficking Zone, how everything. So how y'all can be contacted. Don't give phone numbers out.
RBRW.org. RBRW.org. That's the bracelets. That's the hats. We have shirts, lipsticks, and then RBRW.org. Then NoTraffickingZone.org. And then that's the faith portion as well. And then you can get in contact with anything to do with NRG Stadium, which is the first, I don't know if you said that.
I did not say it.
It's the first no trafficking zone in the world.
It's the first sports and entertainment venue, no trafficking zone in the world.
Yes.
We were blessed to make history.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then you're Jacquelyn Aluotto everywhere, right?
Yeah, I
yes.
think so.
Facebook,
Yeah,
Instagram, all that. And then all our platforms is No Trafficking Zone, but on Instagram is Real Beauty, Real Women, as well as Facebook. And then I'm Rich Love Society, all platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. That's where I am, Rich Love Society.
Yeah, and Twitter for NTZ
Yes.
and No Trafficking Zone and RBRW.
Okay.
And I want to say something. I met Rich 5 years ago, and just to see her journey and how far she's come is such a blessing and so exciting to see just how much she has evolved, not really wanting to speak or being nervous to travel. Now she's,
Everywhere.
traveling everywhere doing, yes.
That's God.
It's really infectious, and I hope that people understand, no matter what your cause is, that all of our purpose is to serve and pour into people. And the biggest gift you can give anyone is helping them and helping them find their purpose.
So before I end the show, what is one word would both of you give to someone that's still on the streets, someone that's still stuck in that trafficking situation?
I think mine may be a little different just because of the place where I am in my life. There was a lot of times where I felt like I told you, I had to live up to something, and I was putting on a facade and trying to be a person that I was not comfortable being. So I think for me, what would have really helped me was authenticity. You can be anyone that you want to be in life, and that also includes being yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think authenticity to, I think some of the situations that I was in where I would have sex with someone, and even if it was semi-consensual, I may not have wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So I think the power in saying no, I don't think that we teach that enough to kids. It's always, yes. Don't be rude, don't hurt their feelings. No is the final answer. I don't need a follow-up. I don't need anything with it.
Not just kids, adults. Because I just learned how to say no.
And that's the final answer. Like, it's no more needed. It's just no.
But it's interesting that you learn to say no now, because we are groomed from a young age to, hug Aunt so-and-so or Uncle so-and-so. And I know that in our organizations, our big thing is with parents is, do not make your kids do things they do not feel comfortable about. I would rather someone think that my daughter is rude or antisocial than her having to force to hug someone to be uncomfortable, because we are training and conditioning our children to say boundaries should not be respected and go against feeling uncomfortable to make other people happy.
Exactly. What would be your one word?
I definitely agree with Rich. I'm definitely a different kind of thinker by the grace of God. So I only know how to be myself. And I really think that if everyone learned how to be themselves and live in their truth and purpose, that's the most important thing. And so for anyone stuck in bondage or hurting, what I always say to them is be kind to yourself and really learn to love yourself, because we forgive other people so easily. and we give other people grace. We really have to give ourselves grace, and you have to love yourself before you love anybody else.
Most definitely. Well, I want to again thank both of you for being here with me today. If you need any information on any of these guests, please contact the Our Life TV Show at ourlifetvshow@gmail.com. Always like, follow, share the Our Life TV Show. You can catch us every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. on the OnPoint Network, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Xbox, AT&T Now, and in the Houston area, Comcast, 17 and 99 AT&T U-verse. Until next time, guys, always empower, always encourage, pull up to the table without fear, but with confidence, and continue to remove your mask.